All right, guys, welcome back to the Behind the Duel Disc podcast. I'm your host, Ty Payne, and with me, as always, is my near and dear friend and co-host, Justin Morgan. And Behind the Duel Disc today, Justin, I think we have one of the most dynamic duos of podcasting with us today. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, outside of the episode where we had Joe Biden and Donald Trump together, that was a pretty good one. But I think this is a close second.
They've literally become one of the biggest voices when it comes to all things Yu-Gi-Oh, anime, and video games. Today, Behind the Duel Disc, we have Fraser Smith and Kenny as of the amazing IMNERD podcast, everyone. Kenny, Fraser, welcome.
Hello. How's it going, everybody?
I'm just really confused why I wasn't introduced as Mike and or John, but, it's all right. All right, I'll take it.
The original Mike and John. That shit grew into... I don't even know how it got to where it was, but yeah, that troll, which people will be hearing very soon, of Mike and John went crazy on the I'm There Patreon, so shout out to everybody who partook in that. But yeah, we're here. We're on the Behind the Duel Disc podcast. Longtime supporters of our podcast as well, so we appreciate you. I felt like we should return the favor and do yours, so we're here.
Yeah, this just randomly happened. We were streaming last night, and then I heard something about going on there, and I was like, hold up, I'll be there. What's going on? Let's get it going.
Yeah, even though we probably didn't go to bed until like 3 or 4 a.m. last night.
Try 7 or 8.
Oh, okay. Well, you did more than me.
Dude, that was me. I was up playing Dueling Book until like 3:30 in the morning last night. And I had this interaction where I attacked over someone's Shein and we were playing hat format. And I was like, it goes to grave. And he's like, yeah, but we're just playing for fun. And I'm like,
that's not how the game works. That's just not how the game works.
No, it's not.
Yeah, so he negated a pot of duality, I think with, I don't remember what it was. And I went ahead and specialed, and he's like, you can't do that. And I'm like, you can't, like, you negated the activation, I can totally do this. And it was Miracle Fusion is what I did. And so he's like, yeah, I'll just keep the Shein up pretty much. Like, we're just having fun anyways, right?
Yeah, people are... Dueling Book is a different animal, especially when you're in that unrated section, right? Like, there's no lag.
Yeah, oh my God.
Oh, it's just the Wild Wild West.
Oh yeah, people do the most. They go pick up pizza, they go make coffee, like they do whatever they want. It's wild.
It is. It absolutely is. I have to like minimize how much Dueling Book I do nowadays. It's just between the amount of unhinged people on there and that, and just how badly like that website can like just deals you just the worst hands imaginable. Is just I just can't deal. I just can't.
The algorithm on that website is not real. I forget what we were playing. Oh, we were playing a frog deck, and I don't know if the episode's out yet. If it's not, it'll be out like within a couple days. But we were playing a frog deck on Master and Disaster, and there's 3 substitutes in the deck. And there's at some point we get down to like fucking 10 cards left on our deck, maybe 15 cards left on our deck, and still don't see a substitute. And if we drew one substitute at any point in time, the game was all the way over. And it's just like we just never see it.
Yeah, but then you'll play against Dragon Turbo and then see Future Fusion all 3 games.
Yep.
Like turn 1. So
that's me anytime I play against Ryan Prescott. Like, he's just every time I play him, he's playing Dragon Turbo. And yeah, literally, he has Future Fusion every time, and
we just played each other in Deck Devastators 7. I played him round 3. We were both undefeated, and yeah, every game I got Future Fusioned. It was actually crazy that I won that round because I went first game 1. I opened up really broken. Thank God I opened up broken because I didn't realize how broken he was going to open up. But like he did the whole draw through my deck thing, make an attempt on my life on his first battle phase that he really got, and then like. I gorsed him and then came back. And then game 2, I got non-gamed. He like summoned a bunch of dragons and flipped Master Restrict. I was like, okay. So that game literally was a minute. And then game 3 was, he started off slow because, Dragon Turbo, if they're nice to you, they'll give you one game where they kind of don't go crazy. And I was hoping to God that it was one of those. And it did start off a little slow, but then eventually he did pop off. But by the time he popped off, I was already in such a good position, and I ended up winning with Heavy Storm of all things, which he did not expect because he set 4 back rows. And he was like, oh, you probably saw your Heavy Storm out. And I was like, nope, I am privy to what you're doing. So
right. Yeah, I played in that tournament as well. And like I started off doing all right, and it's like my first round I played against Diva Hero beat, and I was on Diva Hero, and I ended up winning that one pretty handily, and then I played against Value Turbo round 2. Actually won that faster than I imagined. I was just like, thank God I didn't see oppression. Then I played against Blackwing round 3, beat that, and then after that, I just went downhill. My hands were just egregiously bad. And I was like, all right, this is where my luck has run out.
This is where Jesus decided to take us today.
Yep, he brought us here. But how are y'all? How is everything? What episode is this for y'all?
This is episode 7.
Okay. Ooh, lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7.
We have 707. Yeah, Kenny and I realized last night we have 777 videos on our channel. Exactly that number. So
we're gonna retire.
This
that's like the heavenly number, like 777. It's like the opposite of the devil number. And I'm like, that's really ironic, seeing as how like you and Kenny have like the most unhinged conversations. And I'm like, there's no way that anything you guys say is angelic. So it's pretty ironic.
Listen, all right, everything I do is blessed by the Lord above. All right, He wrote out the plan for me. All right, everything I do is with His guidance. I don't know.
This is actually our 700th video for the channel.
Okay, so y'all up there too then. Damn, 700.
Yeah,
this is Ty's YouTube channel primarily. He's done a lot of stuff like before we started doing the podcast.
Right.
Yeah, I started off it just being my channel. Then after a while, I started to I was like, okay, it's time to rehash the channel and do reinvent reinvent the channel. And I brought Justin on to be my co-host because I was really wanting to do a podcast, but I didn't the thing about it was I didn't want to do it alone. You know what I mean? I feel like having that partner that you have good chemistry with for videos, I felt like it would really help out. And me and Justin go way back, so that I felt like he was my perfect partner for this.
Yeah, and Fraser, actually, we've been on a podcast together before on the for the Edison Club. I think that was last year, maybe the year before.
Oh, you were on ours?
Yeah. I'm the dude. Well, no, you were on the Edison Club. We had a episode where you were a guest on it.
Oh, I remember that now. Yes.
I'm the dude that you told it's not me. It's not the deck. It's me. So I'll never forget that.
Yeah, you guys will never let me live that one. Yup, that shit is so funny because I was just like, that's just me though. Like when I'm being casual, I'm really I guess blunt is the word. But we'll be talking about Blackwings, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
That deck is just so broken. And I was like, I know the frustration of Blackwing sometimes that some of the hands are kind of poopy or whatever, but the deck is just so broken. I even knew back then that it was one of the big 3. Everyone kind of knows now that is, top 3 decks in the format. But even back then, years ago, I was like, yeah, this deck is so broken that if you're having a hard time doing well with Blackwings, it's probably you and not the deck, to be honest, because it's just unfair.
No joke. I took that not in a bad way. I took it to heart, right? So I actually I went back into advanced it's about a year ago. No, it was Richmond in this past year. I started playing again. And I hadn't played in 2 years, been playing primarily Edison. And ever since you said that, I was like, dude, I'm going to use that as a motivation tool. I'm not trying to kiss ass or be that kind of dude, but I legit did. And I ended up going undefeated the first 5 rounds.
You legit kissed his ass?
Yes, I did.
I mean, look, it's a big, beautiful butt. Yeah,
you got to be a tier 3 channel member to access that video.
Yes.
Oh no, what's happening? How did we get here?
So I took that to heart, and I ended up actually going 6-3 day 1. I lost in round 9. But ever since then, I've been doing so much better. And I'm like, because Fraser was a dick to me outside of Buffalo Wild Wings that day, I'll never do that poorly again. So. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, see, motivation, man. It comes in all different forms.
It does.
So, not just being the villain arc,
hey, Tough Love's the best teacher.
He's like, my name's Opito, and Fraser's the boulder.
Not me being the boulder. Not me being the boulder is crazy. I'm just a rock. Imagine just being a rock.
Oh god.
All right, so I guess I wrote a couple different things down. the people that listen to this podcast listen to y'all's, I'm pretty sure. So everyone knows who you are, how you got in Yu-Gi-Oh, that kind of thing. Something I did want to touch upon, I don't think you guys have yet, is the Surgeons and Hat format. We see a lot of people getting cards for it, wanting to play it. I wanted to know your guys' thoughts on that.
Well, funnily enough, a bunch of people actually asked, not a bunch, but like 4 or 5 people asked us that question yesterday on the stream. And Fraser's answer was just that he hasn't really looked into it at all. He doesn't currently have any interest. And my answer is very similar, but plus 10, because I can barely focus my attention on Edison. You know what I mean? God, I'm looking at Edison, and you got to like snap your fingers to get me to look back. Oh shit, what are we doing?
So I'll say this too to add to it, because Kenny's right. Like it's funnily enough, the hat craze that's happening right now. I'm not really sure where this came from. Like I remember Tengu format craze at the beginning of the year because Konami literally announced a tournament at a YCS where it was one of the 3 formats played. But so that one made sense to me. Like everyone was talking about Tengu and stuff. I was like, okay, that was really cool. We started doing Tengu videos on my channel, and it was great. It shortly died out when we realized that Konami had no intention of following up with Tengu format at all. They just continue to do Edison for every single event, and they're still doing Edison for every single event going forward. Not sure if that's ever going to change, but Hat out of nowhere in the last month has just become like the new popular format outside of Edison. Edison's is still number 1, of course, but Hat all of a sudden is popping off, and I'm not sure what made that happen. I don't have pleasant memories of Hat. I'm gonna be honest. Every single tournament that I played in during that format, I topped, but I was eliminated by Infernity. And when I look back at that format in hindsight, I think that Infernity is a deck that is very slept on, and everyone is going to find out that I'm correct about this the longer they play the format. But that deck is insanely good. Like, it is one of the absolute best decks in the format, if not the actual best deck in the format. And all you really need is a really, really strong pilot. But it's one of those decks where Infernity has always been like this. It's unforgiving. And so if you misplay with Infernity, you lose instantly. Because think about what the deck is doing. You're going minus to the point where you have no cards in your hand. So if you mess up, you literally lose the game to like any deck. But if you do it right, you win the game against every deck, and they can't do a single fucking thing to stop you. And this is proven through people like Sahabi, Jake Finney, and everyone else who did well in 2014. I played through that format. I topped through that format. I was there. And I just know the difference between a shit Infernity pilot and a good one. And I'm telling you, if a lot of good players start playing Infernity, like you just saw at that Texas tournament on Oscar's Elias channel, Scott Page, who is a fellow YCS champion and has also topped many YCSs throughout his time playing the game, he randomly decided to join that tournament. He does not really play Yu-Gi-Oh like that anymore. And he got second place with Infernity. And he was like really getting the hang of things again, because I'm sure he knew how to do a lot of stuff back in the day, but this format is 10 years old. But you could see the wheels turning in the video and how he was comboing off and making these unbreakable boards and just destroying his opponents. And yeah, I just think that like a format with 3 soul charge for me personally could be fun for like a week. Yeah. But I'm not gonna take a format with 3 soul charges seriously if I just can't personally take that format seriously. That format is always going to be a meme. And that's not to say that I won't do content for it if it serves the channel. But like in terms of competitively taking it seriously, Konami would have to force it on me. Konami would have to be like, the next Ultimate Time Wizard tournament is Hat format, which I do not see them doing. But if they did that, that is the only way you can get me to play it. I will not play that format willingly. I will not play that format if there are online tournaments for it, which I'm sure that Format Library, which hosts tournaments for every single format ever, will have Hat tournaments. I'm not entering any of them because it just does not interest me at all. So that's my answer. I don't really care for Hat. It's not a pleasant format to me. I think that it's Infernity format in disguise. And I think that this comment is going to age well as more good players start to enter the format, if they even decide to. But if you just have a bunch of shitters running around playing like subpar decks, then people are going to have this misconception of the format that it's better than it actually is, and that somehow you could play like these fake decks, and they're just not really that good.
Yeah, the way you feel about Hat for, I'm sorry, Justin, go ahead.
No. I'm along lines with you. Like we saw what happened with Tengu format. Like it just wasn't supported, and I just don't feel comfort. Like it's cool playing on DB, but I'm just not going to go out and like invest in it like paper wise. To play it once a year with a couple of friends or something like that. I was really hoping Tengu was going to kick off because I really, really enjoy Tengu format. We had a $500 cash tournament. And I took Hero Beat and got second place. So I was really hoping that would kick off because we had a pretty good turnout. I think it was like 50 people or close to it.
Here's the thing, and I think maybe the wider community doesn't fully realize this. Edison format didn't happen in 3 weeks. So the thing with Tengu format is like it got really popular, flash in the pan, and then seemingly nobody really did anything with it anymore. Like Konami supported it one time with the 3v3, right? And then they never went back. However, if support and interest in Tengu plant continued to grow, and there was channels growing on it, and everybody was really interested in it, and people like kept coming back to it, then that format would just naturally grow in the same way Edison did, and then Konami would just naturally support it in the same way they supported Edison and GOAT format. So what I think is happening is people saw GOAT was GOAT forever. People saw what happened with Edison, although Edison format took a couple years to really solidify itself as what it is now. And now people are trying to scurry to find the next really fun format, or I see people doing this thing where they're like, this format is better than Edison. And people try to justify why their favorite format should be the one that's being played. And so people are trying to like scurry to get all these other formats popping up, but they're not actually sticking with any of them. None of them are staying super consistent and having any growth. And thus, the point I'm getting to is ideally, if anybody wants a third format to happen after GOAT, after Edison, they have to get it and stick with it. And right now, the only one that has a chance, in my opinion, is Tengu Plant, because it's already had its pop. But if people aren't going to push it, and they're not going to continue to push it, and they're going to just try to do hat, cat, fat, and shat, then it's not. Then like it's never going to happen for any of them.
Yeah, we do have another 3v3 in Vegas, I'm assuming, coming up in February. So whatever format is going to be in that, because I don't think they're going to do like all Edison for the tag.
It would be nice though.
Do what?
It would be nice though if they did an Edison 3v3, like because the main event is going to be one format. They're not going to make those people play 3 different formats. So I just think that it's a judging nightmare to have 3 different formats be played. One of them has priority, 2 of them don't, or whatever they decide to do. Like at least with Tengu, Goats, and Edison, all 3 have the same rule set.
Yes,
I think when. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say real quick, I think that if they're going to do a 3v3 and use different formats, they should just put their nuts on the table and do it for real, and make it so that the 3v3 is modern Edison and Goats.
Yeah.
That'd actually be kind of cool, because then it'd just be one tournament.
It would also be a very different format for all of them. I think that for me, because these are locked formats, I think that if they ever decide to do everything is advanced, everything's errated, there's no priority, there's no drawing first when go first. I think that if they implement all those rules across all old formats and still hold Ultimate Time Wizard tournaments, that'll be actually amazing, because all the formats will change. And there's no other way for these formats to change besides that type of thing. Like, I don't foresee a future in Edison right now where the big 3 are not the big 3. I don't know what could possibly change where those aren't still the best 3 decks to play. Even if people come up with a bunch of anti-decks, which is kind of what's happening right now, there's a lot of like anti-frog decks being developed, and GBs are being played more, and people are playing viruses a lot more in the main deck. This is all just to fight frogs, which is kind of funny, because like, I don't know if people see that frogs is frogs the best deck, like, because the way people are rising up against the deck is almost like they feel like it's the best deck. But even though Value has won more tournaments over the course of Edison's time, I just think that like we do at some point want change. At least I do. And I think that the idea of advanced Edison or advanced of any of these formats, I welcome it personally, because I think that change is good for good players, which I do consider myself. So like if the format drastically changed, everyone has to relearn the format, which is really, really a good thing to me. And it also extends the longevity. And I do think that there will still be people who do tournaments and communities that do tournaments in the old Edison way, and there will be ones that do tournaments in the advanced Edison way. You'd have a choice between the 2. And I think that having another choice is fine. But I also agree with what Kenny said about all the formats. People trying to push every format every couple months. You get like a new one where people are like, oh man, this format's next up. Dragon Rulers is next up. And then it's like Hat's next up. And then Tengu's next up. And what ends up happening is you just end up with a bunch of segregated formats that never quite pop, because everyone just kind of flitters to each new one without just sticking to one and making sure that this one grows into something that Konami notices and they push on the community themselves. So I think without Konami, none of it really happens, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think something that would benefit from that is you have a lot of like the problem with Yu-Gi-Oh! Now. One of them is like getting new players into the game because the game is so complex that if you could like beat like a new player and hey start out Edison with advanced rulings, and policy and things like that, then it would be much easier for them to transition to the advanced game.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, well, what's priority here in 2010? Why does brain control? Why does it say this, but I can get a special summon monster kind of thing too? So
right,
something like that would help bridge the gap between new players in the game. So I think that's one benefit from it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Konami put in their press release a couple years ago. I think it was actually pretty recent, like within the last 2 years. But there was a press release made by the actual company, Konami Digital Entertainment, saying that one of the issues that they are having is finding ways to get new players to enter the game. They're having a hard time, like, not retaining people, because retaining people, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like crack. It's a drug. So once you get people in the game, they pretty much stay forever. But getting people who have never played Yu-Gi-Oh! To start playing Yu-Gi-Oh! With advanced format is a joke. I just think if I didn't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically, and I went to a card store and I saw people playing it, I would be intrigued by the art of the cards and how flash everything looks. But the second that they start trying to teach me a Snake Eye combo, and it takes them 10, like that Crystal Blanc video
your eyes would just fucking gloss over. Like, you're like, what is
I would just be
happening?
so annoyed. Like, wait, so we're still taking our turn though? Well, when does he get to play? It's like, oh well, he's playing too. He's hand trapping us. It's like, oh, okay. So like it's both of our turns. Like, well, not technically, it's our turn, but like we're still going. It's like, oh, but it's been 15 minutes. Certainly there's like a clock or something on our turn, right? It's like, no, we get to continue to combo off for 15 minutes and our opponent can decide if they want to scoop or not. It's like, oh, okay. Well, do we like we put a bunch of guys on the field? Do we win yet? It's like, no, we don't win yet. He could just break our board with one card. It's like, oh, okay, cool. So we spent 15 minutes doing that. And he's going to break it with one card. It's like, yeah, it's a chance. And it's like, this doesn't seem fun. Like to even people who do know how all of it works, a lot of them aren't having fun. Like they're just not having fun. There's like 7 people who win every tournament. Everyone else is just there for donations.
Basically. Yeah, like I had to really take a step back from advanced, like for really multiple reasons. Like one, it was just like like finances. I just could not like afford to like keep spending like egregious amounts of money on decks just for them to be gone in a couple months down the road. Two, I was starting to really think to myself, I've been playing competitively since like 06, and I was just like,
You said since you were 6?
No, since 06.
Oh,
no, not since 06. But I've been I've been playing competitively since 06. I'm like, I had a realization one day, and like I started picking up Edison after that. I was like, if I was gonna top a YCS or win a YCS or top nationals, it would have been happened by now. So I was like, it's time to rethink this and like try a different avenue.
Yeah, competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Is kind of rough. I've had my in and outs with it over my time. It is one of those games. I remember when I was more into. But when I said competitive, I meant modern because Edison's competitive. Right. When I said I meant modern. So anyway, back to the point. When I was playing modern Yu-Gi-Oh, when that was just all Yu-Gi-Oh was, so it wasn't called modern Yu-Gi-Oh. I had my stints in and out. The joke is always like people would quit. You'd go into the card shop. Somebody would be like, "Oh, I'm done. Like I don't play this game anymore." And then everybody'd be like, "Well, I mean, you'll be back." And then within a couple months, you see them and they're like trying out some new deck. They're using their friends' cards. They're like, "Oh, you're playing again." They're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Nobody ever quits." You know what I mean? And they're never happy to come back either. Like it just that never so. I've had my in and outs. Would you say?
I have fun with both. I go Saturday to locals. I mean, it's just locals, but I do go every Saturday and play advanced.
Yeah.
And then I try to go to Edison tournaments too, but like I live 2 hours away from Ty, and like North Carolina. You guys know this is like a really big Edison community, and I live up here next to Virginia Tech and stuff, and like we just don't have an Edison community. So I had to pick back up advanced to keep playing because it was time consuming to have like a 5 hour round trip to play for a Switch for Edison. So on the other hand, I do enjoy it. I enjoy both. They're two different games. You have to accept that if you want to play it. But if you can accept that they're two different games and you're fine with that, I think you can have fun with both.
Yeah. Well, the main point I was making is just to piggyback off Ty was just that the in and out of quitting and stuff, I think that happened a lot more back in the day because the game was still expensive, but I don't think it was as expensive as it is now.
Yeah.
Now there's nothing you could do to get me to play modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it's just way, way, way too expensive. Like I looked into it because when I was playing Master Duel, I'm a degenerate and I was using Dragon Maids and I wanted to buy the Dragon Maid deck because I was like, I really like this. I just want to have it to have it. I'm not going to keep up with the game. I just want to have a Dragon Maid deck so I can play Yu-Gi-Oh! With random people if I want to. And then I looked into the prices of the cards, and some of the cards I needed were upwards of like $500 a piece, and I was like, "Well, that's just not happening." Like, I'm not.
At the time, I think it was pots, right? They were really expensive.
Yeah, Pot of Extravagance, I think, is the one, or maybe it was one of the other ones.
There's Prosperity, Extravagance. There's a bunch of them, but one of the pots I know for a fact was like $150 each.
Yeah, I think that was Prosperity.
Yeah, that card was $150 each, and you needed 3 of them to play. And so, yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh goes through the expensive periods. I think that the game is stuck in an expensive thing where when a set first comes out, there's always going to be some expensive card like Fiend Smith dude that looks like Axel from Kingdom Hearts. He was $100 on release, probably a little bit more. And then he dropped drastically right after the first event. And you needed him for Nationals, which was ignorant. And Nationals was the same week the set came out. So they do these like really nasty things with marketing to get people to buy the product. And it hikes the price because everyone who sells knows that you need this for the next tournament if you're going. So yeah, they hike the prices up in the beginning. Then the prices drop a lot after 1 or 2 events. And it's always weird to me in tier 0 formats, which Snake Eye is a tier 0 format. It's the best deck. It's not even close. Everyone's coping if you think otherwise. But in tier 0 formats like Snake Eye, Kashtira, Tier Elements, these are the last 3. The deck that is the best, for some reason, just the prices of the cards start off extremely high, and then they just plummet. Like really, really bad. And I've experienced this throughout my time playing too. This was always the thing. And I'm not really sure why. The last expensive deck I remember holding for a while was like Teledad. Throughout that entire format, that was an expensive deck. But then when you got to Necros, I remember at first Necros of Brionic was $150, and Seattle was like the first event where Necros premiered at in 2015, I guess. It was really expensive. After that event though, every card for the Necros deck that was really high, Valk, Brionic, Trishula, all of those cards, they just dropped a lot. And I've noticed throughout the years that kept happening. The same thing happened with Zoo format, where Broad Bull and Dryden, they were a lot of money. And then once it became like officially, this is tier 0. We're playing in a format where this is the best deck. Every other deck is a meme. You could play Paleozo, you could play these other decks, you could play Metal Foes, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, you're handicapping yourself. Those decks drop in price. This is something that retro formats, I think, have strongly over advanced formats. Is like, Kenny was talking about the price of things and how it's unreasonable sometimes to afford a modern deck, especially starting from scratch. It's going to cost you over $1,000 because you need a bunch of staples. If you want to change your deck at any point with hand traps, because you realize, oh, like, I don't think that this is as good in this format. I'm taking out these, I'm putting in this. It's just a lot of money. And with retro, one of the things I love is that you can have a $10,000 deck, which is more expensive than any deck in modern pretty much ever will be. In retro, right? Like my frog deck is thousands of dollars because it's max rarity, but you can also have the exact same deck that I have in low rarity, and it'll cost you maybe $100, including side and extra deck. Like all 70 of your cards will be $100 because everything comes in super low rarity. And I think that barrier of entry being so expensive for advanced format is like definitely a turnoff to some people. Whereas Edison, you can ice your deck out, but you don't have to. You can play the format, and you don't have to worry about it changing next month. Where my Fiendsmith cards that I paid a bunch for last month for the info set, they're not worth anything anymore because Konami just released a ban list that like Hertz did that, and that's just frustration, I think, too.
Yeah, and the value doesn't depreciate either. Like, it doesn't matter how many quarter century secret rares they get of Edison cards or whatever format you want to play, right? Like, those original rarities are always going to retain value, like those Turbo Pack Ultimates, the original Ultimates. Those will always retain value no matter what reprint comes out. So you get a deck and you can keep it for years and years. Nothing's going to change on the list. The value's not going to change. It's a good investment.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel bad because Kenny genuinely did want to just have like a Dragon Maid deck. Back in 2013, he had a Dragon Ruler deck just to have it as well. But the problem with Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that at certain points, these cards will be super expensive. They'll reprint them into the ground. Mm-hmm. Like those pots now, I bet are not that expensive. I bet that Pot of Prosperity or whatever one it was, because I'm sure it's been reprinted multiple times by now. Or at least I hope. It's probably like a much more affordable card now.
It's also at 1, so
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what really happened. Yeah, they put it at 1, and I'm sure they reprinted it too. On top of that, right?
Yeah, probably. It was in the Rarity Collection 1.
Yeah, so got like Super, Ultra, and all that. So
all I wanted was to play some Dragon Maids, have a little fun, play, because I have a friend who plays Yu-Gi-Oh! He plays modern Yu-Gi-Oh, but not really. Like he's had the same deck for like 4 years, and that's just like his deck. And he plays with some of his friends, and they have like a little thing where they hang out, and they just play with some. Actually, he's played the same deck for longer than that. He plays Dragoonities, so he's been playing Dragoonities for however long. And I think new Dragoonity support came out at some point, and he bought those cards, and he just like has fun with Dragoonities, and like he plays with other people. And I wanted to buy my little deck just to have fun, and that'll be the deck I use for the rest of my life, like once every 3 years when I go somewhere, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, the only decks I still have for modern Yu-Gi-Oh is Dark World and Heroes, and I literally just got my Dark World deck out of the closet like for the first time in like a couple months, and just I was like, like I started getting a little bit of a spark to play modern, and then I was like, I don't know, well, pending.
All right, so
I don't know.
I think we talked a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! I want to talk some anime because everybody in this chat right now is a big anime fan. I'm pretty stoked for the core 3 of the new Bleach, or the 1,000-Year Blood War.
Go ahead, Justin.
No, so did you guys ever read that one-off chapter, the Hell Arc?
I did actually.
Put out a couple years ago. You did. What'd you think of that?
I thought the idea.
I haven't read the Hell Arc yet.
It's not a whole arc. It's just like an introduction type thing.
Yeah, so that's what's weird about it to me is that I reread all of Bleach very recently. Because previously I'd only ever read up to the end of Aizen. And by end of Aizen, we all know that not that Aizen died, because that apparently is just not possible. But I read to the end of the Arankar arc. I never read Fullbring and anything that came after it. So within the last year or so, maybe it's been a year and a half, 2 years now, I don't know, I decided like I'm going to reread Bleach from chapter 1, and I'm going to read all of Bleach. So I did that. I read Fullbring, I read 1,000-Year Blood War. I had a lot of fun during my read. I noticed a lot of things that were better about Bleach than I had remembered, and I noticed some other things that were maybe a little worse than I remembered, and then everything in between. But overall, very enjoyable read. I had a lot of fun reading Bleach, but there were some issues. On that note, afterwards, I found out about the Hell arc, or the Hell chapter, and I kept hearing people say there was going to be a whole arc, and like that just never seemed to come to fruition. And as far as I know, it's been confirmed for an anime, and it's still just one chapter. So I don't know what's going on with that, if there's going to be more to it or what. But I'm kind of not incentivized to read it because I don't really know where it's going. Like it doesn't seem like anything else is happening with it for real. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'll jump in and say I did read it. I thought that the concept for it was awesome, with the whole bringing back everyone who died and they're in this like crazy demon form, whatever. Zio Opero Grants, like I always wonder what happened to him after Mayuri did that crazy superhuman drug on him that he said it'll take you 1,000 years before you even realize that I stabbed you. And all of that. Bleach has some of the most epic moments of any anime manga ever. Like literally in the shonen genre, Bleach's the trash talking in Bleach's Tier Zero, the epic moments. It also has a lot of Tier Zero epic moments, and even something that wasn't necessarily like an action moment, like the Mayuri thing with the superhuman drug. that shit was so cool. But that guy was just standing there in theory until Heko Mundo maybe doesn't even until Heko Mundo doesn't even exist anymore, thousands of years from now, because that's what it did. And then seeing him come back in like the hell, I was like, okay, I guess he actually did end up dying eventually, and he's like back and with a bunch of other people who are back. And then all I kept wondering was, oh god, they're going to find a way to bring back Captain Commander as like an evil person, and that's going to be obviously a huge problem. But like Kenny said, it kind of didn't really go anywhere after that. It was just like a one-off that it opened a door for Bleach to come back. And I don't know if Bleach is actually going to come back. So I lost interest in it too. Like I kind of forgot about it until you even brought it up, to be honest. Like it's kind of like, oh, that is something that did happen. But maybe they don't want to. I think that what's really happening is until they get through the 1,000-Year Blood War arc anime, they probably don't want to expand on the Hell arc while they're also actively doing the anime for a completely different arc. Because that would I think that would just cause issues. Right, because we know that the Hell arc is after, so like you would see all the characters in the Hell arc if you're reading the manga. Like for people who don't care about finishing the anime or whatever, and they just hear about the Hell arc, they would get spoiled on stuff. And all Ichigo, there's a bunch of stuff that happened. Like the Hell arc after the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, technically there's a lot of spoilers in that arc for the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. So if you don't even know what's going on in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc or where that's going to go, then I feel like it would just be weird for them to continue the story. It'd be like if Demon Slayer, imagine if Demon Slayer, like right now, there was a continuation to the story. And I don't know the end of Demon Slayer at all, but like imagine if there was a continuation arc of Demon Slayer that started getting posted now, like a new manga that continues it after whatever happens in this Infinity Castle arc. You'd be like, well, wait, so Tanjiro's going to live through this thing? Like, oh, Zenitsu's alive too, but he has one arm. Like, it would just be annoying to have to see thumbnails being created on YouTube and like a bunch of stuff like that about something that you didn't even finish the original story from. That's how I perceive it, basically, to try to give an example.
And I think what makes it different is that because it's something that's old, and then because like Bleach is old and it's been done forever, and now it's back with the anime. So it's one of those things where if the manga continues now, that in itself kind of becomes a spoiler. Same with like Demon Slayer. Like Demon Slayer was done before the anime even started. So now it's like, okay, there's a definitive end. Something's going to happen. Somebody might die, whatever. So now if the manga ends up continuing, you'd probably be like, okay, well, now I know Tanjiro is alive because the manga's continuing. Obviously, it could be like, I don't know, Tanjiro's son or something. I also don't know what happens in the manga. I'm just like saying shit out loud. But that's kind of, I think, the feeling Fraser was talking about. And I agree where if Demon Slayer just restarted again and new chapters started coming out, it would soft spoil the end of original Demon Slayer. It'd be like, oh, so like Tanjiro lives, because right now there's obviously a chance like they succeed in everything in the end, but like Tanjiro dies or whatever. Yeah. Obviously they're going to succeed. It's not going to end with Muzan winning, but the point is, it's like, how do they succeed and how many losses do they incur in succeeding?
Yeah, I agree with that. So that it's interesting. I think it's an interesting concept, but I'll say that as much as I loved the original Bleach, I do think that the longer Bleach goes on, a lot of what happens in it seems contrived. Like Kenny and I have talked about our gripes with Bleach in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, because a lot of it just seems crazy, bro. You're telling me that these Quincies have been eradicated 1,000 years ago, and they've been literally in Soul Society the entire time in a parallel shadow dimension, and they just pop out in Captain Commander's fucking chamber and attack him? Like, that is wild to me. In order to make new villains, new storylines start, they have to come up with these really wild, crazy things. Like even the whole arc, the premise of that to me is also one of those huge contrivances that I'm like, okay, I'll watch it because it'll probably be epic at points, but I don't think it's going to be a good story.
Yeah, you can't convince me that Urahara, Mayuri, and Aizen, none of these guys found out about the Quincies over the last 1,000 years. Like, none of them knew the Quincies were hiding in Soul Society for 1,000 years. Like, the three smartest people to fucking exist.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I'm here for all the cool, bankais and all that stuff. But in terms of storyline, I think that the original Bleach just takes the cake. Like when it was one of the big three, I think that original, starting from the very beginning, where he stabs himself with Rukia sword and becomes a Soul Reaper, that all the way to Aizen getting Mugetsu'd and imprisoned by Urahara's incantation thing, all of that to me is amazing. I actually genuinely love the story of Bleach up until that point. I think once you get to the Fullbringer, 1,000-Year Blood War arc and stuff like that, that's where I was like, you can tell that this was supposed to have an end, and they pushed it further because of money reasons. It was so popular that it's like, why would you let something like this go? It's a cash cow. And the writing reflects that. Like, you could, in my opinion, Tite Kubo just didn't have the 1,000-year Blood War arc planned from the beginning. Like, I don't think that this was ever something that when he started writing Bleach, or even at any point writing Bleach, that this was going to be. Oh, I always wanted it to end with Yhwach being the ultimate evil, and it being, Zangetsu and all that stuff, all those weird, like, oh, I was your sword the whole time, and you're a Quincy too, because you're everything. Like, literally a Fullbringer, a Hollow, a human, a Soul Reaper, literally every a Quincy. Just like, bro, okay. So I don't know. I just think that it's very contrived.
Let's hope that they never rush Oda, because when it comes to storytelling and writing, I don't think anybody in the manga.
I don't think you got to worry about them rushing him. All right,
yeah, they literally can't.
He's taking his sweet ass time. He said that when he first started writing One Piece, he thought it would take him 5 years. So we see where we're at. Number one, number two, Bleach only ended up getting rushed because of the absolute quality that it took, and because some people might not realize this, but Shonen Jump is cutthroat. If you can make it, you know how people say if you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere? Not true. If you can make it in Shonen Jump, you can make it anywhere. They will cancel a manga on the spot. So even if you're one of the most popular, most successful things that they have, like Bleach, if you end up really slipping and continue to slip, like, they'll be like, all right, you're done. And so if you're super big like Bleach was, they'll give you the respect of being like, hey, you have to wrap this up. And so that's what happened, as far as I remember, with Bleach, is it started to really slip and really dip, and like the Japanese community was getting lower and lower on it. And so they gave Kubo like the heads up, like, listen, you got to start wrapping this up. Like, it's going to be taken out of Shonen Jump. Like, Bleach is done. You gotta get to the end. And that's why like the last 15 or so chapters of Bleach feel really rushed. So with One Piece, if that happened, if One Piece went from being the number one manga on the, I'm sorry, not manga. If One Piece went from the number one comic book on the planet, because if you look in terms of it's outsold Superman, it's outsold Batman, One Piece is the number one comic book on the planet. So if somehow it went from the number one comic book on the planet to like falling off the face of the earth in popularity, then they would rush him. But that's not going to happen. So like Oda's going to be able to take his sweet ass time.
Yeah, there's too many people invested at this point. The fan base is huge. The card game is thriving. But yeah, Bleach, it only really exists in a good way in nostalgia for me. I think that watching the last arc of the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, I just felt like all of a sudden things were being rushed along and not really well explained. Like, I think that season 1 was really well done and I enjoyed it. The last one that just came out though, I was like, me and Kenny both were like, what is happening with the girls and them, all doing their release date thing and fighting against Kenpachi and almost killing him, and then he gets the name of his sword. Things were just happening, and I kind of hate that. I hate that things are just happening without explanation.
Bleach's fights kind of became, everybody already knew this, but it became more and more obvious, especially coming back to it years later, watching the 1,000-Year Blood Year arc, and it's like the formula for every Bleach fight is the same. It's like you win, you lose, you win, you lose, and then you win again. And it's just like, it's always just like cool move, release date, and then like it's it. So that's what happens. It's like Captain used their Bankai, they get their Bankai stolen. They use like their Voltstanger or whatever, and then like they use like a Bankai, and then the Captain gets their Bankai back, or the Captain reveals like, oh, my Bankai has another name, and I have a second release Bankai with a new name, and so like they give their Bankai another name, and now they have another power, and then like the Voltstanger happens like to have a level 2, and then like the Captain reveals like, oh, actually like if I say my Bankai in Spanish, it has another name, and so like actually I'm this strong, and now I win. Like that's how the fights are all going. It's just like, okay, like I get it.
Oh god, yeah, they were like, Rukia is gonna use her Bankai, and it's gonna do something that's literally absolute zero. But we're gonna also have been telling you the entire show that Hitsugaya had the strongest Aizen Pakuto in Soul Society, and you were led to believe this entire time that the strongest Aizen Pakuto was Hitsugaya. I just don't understand how his could possibly be the strongest one when all this man really does is grow some fucking wings and a tail, and hers literally absolute zeros the playing field. Like, what are we talking about, bro? Like, why is nothing true in Bleach? The Bankai names aren't true. The sword names aren't true. The fucking little girl Yachiro who was on
Yeah, she's not
Kenpachi
true.
she wasn't true. Like, nothing is true. Everything is always like, oh, this was actually not really. You were told a lie. Like, it's just so many contrived things that I hate ass pulls like that. Like, every once in a while, it's great when you do that. You can actually do that really well. Spoilers for One Piece, but like, we were all led to believe that Luffy's fruit was the gum fruit, right? And eventually we find out that that's not necessarily true. I think that Bleach does it too much. Like, everybody can't have a fake name. Everyone can have a fake release date. Like, they did it with Gin. Gin was like, oh yeah, Kamishini no Yari. My sword stretches, 5,000 times the speed of sound in an instant. That's my Bankai. But then come to find out his Bankai was actually poison. And like, that was... It's just like, everybody can't have that. Renji, his sword lied to him, and his real Bankai. It's like, everybody can't just have a lying ass sword, bro.
Like Unohana, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, she's supposed to go heal everybody. Then she turned out she was a Kenpachi. So
Yeah,
it's
she's a
like,
killer.
what?
She's the opposite of a healer. She heals you through killing you. Like, you don't feel any pain anymore. That's how
speaking
she's
of
been
One Piece,
healing people.
so you guys read One Piece weekly, right?
No,
Yeah, well, not
I
weekly.
don't read
but
it weekly. No,
Yeah,
Okay.
but we catch up. So
Okay.
both of us are caught up right now. And
One
like,
chapter behind.
One chapter behind. Yeah.
yeah.
And Ty, you watch it, right? Or do you read it?
I'll watch it and read it. I'm not all the way caught up, but like,
Okay, I don't want to spoil anything then.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
you guys
One
have the
Piece
Shonen
is-
Jump app. I'm sorry. Go, Kenny.
Do I have the Shonen Jump? No, I don't have the Shonen Jump app.
I don't either.
Oh, dude.
No.
What do you guys read it on?
I'd
internet?
read it. I read it the same way I've read manga. I
Yeah,
read it
I've
the
been reading
same way
manga.
I've read manga since I was
Bro.
13.
Bro, you have a
There are
Max Rating Frog
websites.
deck.
There are websites out there for you to read anything you want to read, and they
Here's the
haven't gone
thing.
anywhere.
Dude,
The problem is you have to, if you're reading manga weekly, right? If you're reading manga weekly, you're part of that weekly community. And in that instance, you're in the most dangerous place to get spoiled. Because if you are like a year behind or whatever, you're not keeping up with the current community. And so you're not really looking for spoilers. They won't really come to you. But if you're keeping up weekly, every week, like, you're part of that zeitgeist. And so I think it's a lot easier for things to get spoiled for you because you're right there in the mix of it. The problem with and maybe this isn't true anymore, but like official Shonen Jump apps and everything is they get the chapters after everybody else. Like, the people on the internet out in the open sea, the pirates, the people looking for the One Piece in real life, they all get the chapters first. So they all get the chapters first, and then you end up getting spoiled because like everybody already saw the chapter and everybody's already spoiling it for you. And now you waiting for like the official release, even if it's only 2 days later, like you're late to the party. So I read when I'm reading manga like that, I read it like in the fastest way possible and most up-to-date way possible on those websites. And I support my creators in other ways. I have a Crunchyroll account. I buy One Piece paraphernalia. I buy One Piece volumes. Like, I support the things that I love in the ways I support them. But I also still believe, and I'll just stop beating around the bush, piracy is the best way to consume content. I do think you should support creators. However, piracy consistently delivers a better product than what gets officially released most times. Most piracy websites have cleaner and more adept features than legal streaming websites. And if they need to just fucking step their game up, like, if you want people to stop pirating, and also they killed piracy for a long time, but then like they made everything worse, like Spotify and all that. Like, music piracy was dead. People are going back to music piracy because now the music websites are making it more and more annoying to listen to music. So now people are like going back to music piracy. They're like, I'm fucking done with this shit. This is getting ridiculous.
Yeah, same thing with the streaming services. Like, there was a point where me and you, who used to be younger and would download torrents and stuff all the time for everything, all media that we consumed, that's just what we did when we were kids. We completely stopped cold turkey, basically in our 20s, because the world had changed a lot, and streaming and stuff like that made it where, I don't really have to like pirate as much or at all. And I completely, the Pirate Bay and all the other websites that people will go to, really just stopped using them. And I think a lot of people did. Those places became basically a wasteland. Like, you really couldn't find up-to-date torrents for anything that you wanted to look at. But then everyone wanted to make a streaming app, and so you end up in this segregated world where if you want to watch this show, you have to have this streaming app, but if you want to watch this other good show, you have to have this. So if you want to watch Stranger Things, you need Netflix. You want to watch Game of Thrones, you need HBO, and then you want to watch what's the one that people Power, that you need Stars. And it keeps going on. Like, this doesn't stop. AMC for The Walking Dead and fucking it doesn't stop. There's just so many of them now, and you realize that
they all demand like $20 a piece.
Yeah, the prices keep going up.
What pisses me off is you'll get like 3 different services, and then you'll get an email saying, "Well, bundle all 3 for half the price," and then it's like, "Oh my god, are you kidding me?"
Yeah, you're just watching cable again, and they got too greedy, which, you know, that's what happens. Corporations, whatever, America, make your money. But they got too greedy, and what they're not realizing, or maybe they do, I don't fucking know. But when you start doing that and you start really forcing it on people again, that's when they turn to piracy. If you make it convenient and at a reasonable price, you're going to get everybody's money. Like Fraser said, piracy was dead for the most part in terms of movies, TV shows, anime. Nobody was pirating anymore. When they just needed Netflix and Hulu and Crunchyroll or whatever, it was fine. But now they need HBO, Showtime, Stars, Peacock, and Disney Plus, and the list will go on. Like, people are gonna be like, wait a second, I'm now paying fucking $500 a month in streaming services. You know what? Let me go check out. Is the Pirate Bay still up? Let me go check that out. Like, let me see what's going on.
Yeah, like the amount of streaming services we have now is just it's completely insane. I have my I have my essentials. I have I keep like Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, and Crunchyroll. And that's really all I'll keep around. And I'm just like I'm not into the game of like trying to collect them all.
Nah, it's you'll run yourself ragged.
Yeah,
you'll really go completely broke.
I just recently got Max's because my lady got a bundle deal for it was Disney Plus, Hulu, and Max, and so we just got to add on Max to that. I was like, whatever, cool.
I solely just got Max to watch House of the Dragon season 2, and then once the last episode went off, like, I canceled it.
Yep.
And the same thing with like Prime right now. I got it just so I can watch Rings of Power. I don't know if you guys are Lord of the Rings fans or not.
I am. Well, I saw the movies, the original trilogy. I do kind of want to talk about this just a little bit.
Okay.
Rings of Power season 1, I did not care for, and to be honest, when I was a kid, I watched the Lord of the Rings and I didn't care for it either. I thought it was boring and just not my twist. Game of Thrones came out when I was older, and I was like, this is actually insane. Like, one of the most insane fantasy things ever. Like, shout out to Tolkien for paving the way for people like George R. R. Martin to exist and whatnot. I understand that he's like one of the goats, but George R. R. Martin just took the idea of a fantasy world with like dragons and evil demon zombie things and all that stuff, and it's made it so much better. But now that I've matured and gotten older, I was watching the Rings of Power season 2 because they released 3 episodes at once, and I watched all 3 of them over this past weekend because it was a holiday weekend with the Labor Day and everything. I didn't care for season 1, and I told myself, like, all right, if season 2 starts off kind of mid the way season 1 was as a whole, I'm good on this show. Like, they're spending $60 million. This is the most expensive show ever made, by the way. Rings of Power is the most expensive show of all time.
I feel like I hear that sentence every 6 months, 4 months. This is the most expensive show ever made. Like, I feel like people are just trying to like measure their dick. Like, everybody's just like, oh, we got it now. We did it now, because it was Stranger Things and it was Game of Thrones and it's just like, holy shit.
Yeah, Game of Thrones only took $10 million an episode. Stranger Things took 30, and I don't see how, because Stranger Things doesn't look anywhere near the quality of Game of Thrones. That's a different conversation. Rings of Power is the most expensive show ever made. $60 million an episode. I didn't feel that season 1. Season 2, episode 1, I was watching it, and I was watching it objectively, without any kind of bias or whatever, how I feel about Lord of the Rings as a whole, like the whole world, the whole Tolkien world. And I genuinely was like, yo, this show now, because they're focusing on the villain, like Sauron, is amazing to me right now. Like, the first 2 episodes, I love actually seeing. In the Lord of the Rings, Sauron is a fucking eye in the sky somewhere that you never actually really see him except in like shadowy, figures and stuff like that. Like, you never really see him. And seeing him now actually walking Middle Earth and doing things, and how he became the Lord of the Rings, and how he tricks people, and the way he talk, I think that this is like really good now. And this is the way I felt about Stranger Things. I didn't care about Stranger Things until season 4, really, when Vecna got a real identity and they gave him a backstory. He was a actual tormented child, like a real person that existed, and he became Vecna over time. And that concept, putting a real story into your villain and focusing on your villain, I think is way more interesting than like a lot of things that shows tend to do with their villains. So I say all that to say, I think Rings of Power season 2 is so far phenomenal. Like, these first 3 episodes have been absolutely cracked. And I really like the story so much so that I was like, damn, I almost want Kenny to watch it so we could talk about it, but he'd have to watch season 1. And that shit is it is hard to watch season 1, in my opinion.
I've seen all the Lord of the Rings movies. I saw the director's cut, which are like 30 minutes to an hour longer. I've seen them all. I really enjoyed all of them. I have not seen Rings of Power yet because when it came out, I didn't have access to it because, once again, like, there's just too many streaming services. And I didn't feel like going through the process of getting it the other way. So I haven't seen season 1 yet, but I do want to watch it because I just like Lord of the Rings in general. And I know a lot of people have said it's bad, but at the end of the day, I like to see things for myself. So
my gripe with the first season was just like, well, I guess it carries into the second season too, but I've never seen elves with short hair, right? Like, growing up watching Lord of the Rings, like seeing Elrond with the short hair was just like, what the hell? But I did enjoy the first season. I can see why a lot of people wouldn't enjoy the first season. I'm only like an episode deep into the second season, so I can't speak for it. But I think visually, like, it's very good. But as far as like, if we're comparing it to the original, the trilogy, like, I don't think anything holds up to that quite yet. And I know they got a new series coming out too, don't they?
I think so.
Yeah,
I
and then
heard
we
something
have
about it. I don't know anything about it.
And then we have the anime movie coming out later this year too.
I did hear about that. And you know me, I'm a fucking weeb. I love anime. The fact that they're making a Lord of the Rings anime movie, I will be on that real fast. Like, I'm definitely watching that.
And it looks like Ghibli too.
Yeah, it's going. I'm sorry. What'd you say, Ty? I didn't hear you.
I said I didn't know anything about them making a Lord of the Rings anime movie. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. There's a Lord of the Rings anime movie, so it's not like a whole multiple episodes, but there's a movie coming out. I don't know what it's covering. I don't know if it's like a retelling of the first movie. I don't know if it's completely new content, but whatever it is, I'll watch it.
So it's based on Helm's Deep. It's based on I believe the dude that Helm's Deep is named after. So it's just like the origin of that, based on the Rohirrim. So if you're like a fan of Rohan and stuff like that, and the Rohirrim, then it's pretty good. So new content, which I'm pretty excited for.
Yeah, that's gonna be dope. That's gonna be dope. Wait, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say in the last week, or not last week, in the last weekend. So this past weekend, that's been Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now it's Monday, Labor Day. In the last 4 days, my YouTube, because I've been so curious about Lord of the Rings lore, I've been enthralled in just looking at Lord of the Rings stuff because I really wanted to know all the history of that Tolkien's world. So I've watched several videos that are like an hour long explaining the entire timeline from the beginning with the Mire and the angels and how elves came about and like everything, how orcs came about and how Sauron came about and like what his goals and ambitions are and all the things that he's done throughout time. Like, I've watched so many videos in the last 3 days. My whole YouTube now recommended is just a bunch of Lord of the Rings channels because I really love Sauron so much. He's just like a really cool ass villain to me, which again, when I was younger, I just didn't care about him at all because they didn't characterize him well enough, in my opinion, in the original trilogy. And I think that now, he was just always like, oh, he's the most evil thing that's ever existed. We have to stop him, blah, blah, blah. And like, I get it, right? Like, he's the devil. But now that like seeing it is way better. And also these YouTube videos giving you more context on like why things are the way they are now and how they end up translating into the original trilogy and all that stuff. It's just cool to me. Like, I really, really like it now. So I'm going to watch this whole season. And then at some point, when Kenny watches like the first 2 seasons, we could do a podcast episode just talking about both seasons at once. Because I'm not gonna rewatch season 1 to even talk about just season 1 by itself. I'd rather just talk about. I think season 1, the ending of it is epic. Like, it's a huge reveal type thing, and then season 2 is just this is what it's about. This is who it's about, and I can't wait to see where it ends up. But yeah, Lord of the Rings is kind of nice right now. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm not like big up on the show, but I'm definitely like after hearing y'all, I definitely want to check it out and see for myself because I'm very intrigued, very invested now. So now I want to check it out.
I don't think you'd be disappointed. Like fantasy's not everybody's thing, but I think everyone deserves to watch Lord of the Rings once in their lifetime, or read it, whichever one. It's just like a classic. It's up there. Same with Harry Potter. I feel like everyone needs to read that once in their life or watch the movies. It's just an experience.
I will say this. This is my last thing saying about Lord of the Rings. The one thing I still don't like about it, it's entirely too confusing. I think that Lord of the Rings is one of the most pretentious fantasy things I've ever read. It's almost akin to Star Wars, but I think it's actually worse when it comes to being very hard to know and understand all the different names of everything. Like, sure, that can lead to immersion by having it be so different from real life. But I think that, like, the names, there's too many factions that have there's too many ridiculous names for every little thing in Lord of the Rings that the way the characters speak about things, I really don't like it because they're speaking like you just know what the fuck they were referring to when you have no idea. Like a lot of the time they talk about things as though you've read all of Tolkien's work and you know all of the factions that exist. I don't like that. I genuinely do not like. People talk about Game of Thrones having a lot of names, but at the end of the day, Game of Thrones names are just like, okay, these are just the people's names, and that's it, right? Like the Lannisters, the Starks, the Baratheons, the Tyrells, and it goes on and so forth, right? Once you understand those things, the people's last names, that's it. Like there's nothing else. Like there's very few groups, and their names are not hard to understand, right? Like you got the Dothraki or whatnot, the Lannisters, blah blah blah. But like when I was researching and watching YouTube videos, even in those videos, I'm like, God damn, why there's so many? It's like the Maiar created these people and they created these people, but then this one rebelled and he became evil. And then there's Morgoth, and then Morgoth wanted this, but then Sauron became his servant. And then like there's this faction and there's the Fellowship and there's this guy and there's this specific group of elves and then this specific group of orcs that are descendants of elves. And it's just like there's so many of them, like literally hundreds of different names for groups of entities or people or higher beings. I just think it's too much. I think it's like way too much. Like just call all of these people fucking angels, right? Call them some name for angels and call all of them that. But the fact is like so many levels and so many different names. After a while, I'm just like, I just don't care. I literally just don't care. Like, all right, this guy's evil. I got it. Cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever read Lord of the Rings, but like reading it is even more complex than like.
Oh, I'm sure it always is.
It's like I remember picking up the Fellowship. No, it was the Silmarillion, and it was pretty much like reading the Book of Genesis when they're going through like every biblical name there is like imaginable.
Yeah,
it's like I just can't do this.
Yeah, to me it's very boring and
yeah.
Only thing I'll say is in defense of the Silmarillion is that that's not a book. That's not like a thing that Tolkien released. That's just like a collection of his writings that I believe his son ended up releasing afterwards. But that itself wasn't like a constructed novel. That was just like things that he wrote that he was turning into stuff and relevant to other things. But that wasn't like a novel he constructed to put out.
Yeah. So we are at the 1 hour and 6 minute mark. I think that's going to wrap up our episode. I appreciate you guys joining us today.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, this was
before I leave, you guys, we talked a little bit about anime. Is there anything other than like Bleach, One Piece, whatever? Is there any like current ongoing, maybe seasonal anime that you guys are checking out?
Solo Leveling is really good. I don't know if you guys watch it or not.
I haven't started it yet.
It's pretty good. I'm not really currently watching anything right now. I will say I'm a huge fan of Vinland Saga. I don't know if you guys, I know we're talking about fantasy. Vinland Saga is a really good anime.
I watched the first 4 episodes of that 4 times.
Oh my god! So you're caught up with. You watched the second season then, right? Obviously.
No. I only watched the first 4 episodes of Vinland Saga season 1, and I've seen it 4 times with 4 different people. And for whatever reason, I get to episode 4, which is like where a big thing happens, right? And then I always say like, oh, I'm going to continue this by myself, but I never do. I always watch it with a different person. And I enjoy those 4 episodes. Like I've seen them so much that I could probably recite them word for word. But like for whatever reason, I just never turn it on my own and just watch the whole thing on my own. So I heard good things about Villain Saga. I heard it's actually really good, but I've never fully watched it.
Yeah, that's one of those series that like I had to watch it weekly when it dropped. I couldn't wait. Sometimes I'll let like Demon Slayer, I'll let a couple episodes build up just because I really don't care about spoilers. Um, but that's one of the shows that like I had to watch when it came out. It's so good. But I'm not really watching anything currently. I'm just I work a lot and everything, and I'm not working on playing cards. So what about you guys?
Yeah, I've been like the last anime that I've been watching. It's just been My Hero. Just been trying to like just been watching that and just catch up on that just to see if any like it's kind of copium for me for me to expect anything to be different from like the manga, but I'm just it's still like following suit. So I'm slowly not becoming a fan of where it's going. So
Yeah, I don't know where it's going to go. I was current with the manga at one point, but that's now a year, maybe even 2 years ago. So I'm actually catching up on the anime for that. I think I'm like 2 seasons behind on the anime, even though I think nothing in the anime is something I haven't seen yet. I'm not 100% sure, but the point is, I am catching back up with the My Hero anime. And where I left off in My Hero, everything was like still amazing and still like going towards some crazy shit. So I don't know where it goes. I haven't heard anything good or bad about the ending. Because I've just done everything in my power to make sure, like, woo, I don't want to see any of that shit. So I've like shut all of that out. So luckily, I haven't really heard anything on either side of the fence. And yeah, I don't know. I'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I know that Jujutsu Kaisen just wrapped up in the manga. I'm not caught up with it yet. I don't know if you guys. Pretty sure you read it, right?
No,
No. I'm anime only on JJK.
same. And I know that it ends in September. Like the full thing is over this month. But
Yeah, and then I think Black Clover is almost over, fizzing already. I was reading it for a while up until I think 30 or 40 chapters ago, and I sort of lost interest in it. And we was talking about One Piece a little bit ago. I think that once One Piece ends, I think like Shonen Jump really doesn't have anything to carry it.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that because that's what everybody thought when Naruto and Bleach ended. And that's what everybody thought when Yu Hakusho and Dragon Ball Z ended. You know what I mean? Like, that's what everybody always thinks, but like, there's always something. Like, when Naruto and Bleach ended, everybody was like, oh my God, like, Shonen is dead. Like, yeah, there's still One Piece, but there's, that's not enough. Like, everybody's going to move on. But then, like, people jumped on Fairy Tail, and then, like, there's My Hero Academia and JJK and Demon Slayer, and then there's always, like, something else. Like, I'm forgetting a bunch of things. Black Clover, Boruto ended up happening. Like, there's always something that's going to get everybody hype. And Shonen, say what you will about it, I love anime. I watch a lot of genres of anime, and there's a lot of genres of anime that don't get enough shine that are really good. But at the end of the day, say what you will, people love to like be snobs and hate on it. Nothing gets people more fucking hype than like Shonen is the thing that like gets everybody booming. Like that gets people to pop, and there will be something else that's going to get everybody to pop.
I was just gonna say, I think that the world has a funny way of working. There's a kid out there who's been inspired by Oda and Tite Kubo and all the other great writers that have come before them. And I bet that by the time One Piece ends and Oda puts his pen down or whatever, that we will have another great writer to carry Shonen for the next 100 years or whatnot. Just the same way Tolkien existed, and then George R. R. Martin carried it and has been carrying fantasy for the last, I don't know, over a decade now, right? Like Game of Thrones started in 2011 or something like that, the show. So like, I think that we'll always have great writers for manga and stuff like that that are inspired by the ones who came before them. The same way that like Yu Hakusho inspired a lot of things like Bleach, right? And then Bleach inspired JJK, right? You can heavily see like hollows and curses are basically the same thing, and a lot of concepts from Bleach are just blatantly in JJK, and it goes on and on and on. Naruto has inspired, I'm sure, some young person out there who dreamt of becoming a manga writer and will continue to like inspire. So I'm not really worried about that because I think that throughout time, there's always going to be greats in everything, right? Like LeBron is not the last great basketball player. I don't think that Oda is going to be the last great manga writer, and Tolkien wasn't the last great writer, and neither is George R. R. Martin, and it goes on and on and on. There will always be somebody to fill that void and gap. So I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, someone's going to have to fill the void to write wins a winner.
Yeah, that's true. I think that is going to have to be. I mean, I know some of it is written, but yeah, that's going to have to be written by someone else because he's not going to do it. That's just not happening.
Yeah, I hope he has something because, like, for example, Berserk. I don't know how many people have read Berserk, but the guy that writes Berserk died. But before he died, he had like, all of his notes and everything that he planned on where the plot is going. Like, he had all of his notes that he would refer to while he was writing, and maybe he even like wrote out more. But he gave them to his best friend, who was also a mangaka, and like his best friend is the one continuing Berserk now. So when new Berserk chapters come out, they're written by like the original author's best fucking friend. And some people are like, oh no, they're like, they should have got someone else. It's like, bro, there's no one else to get. Like, no one will know it better than this guy. Like, this is second in line. Obviously, you want, somebody else. But yeah, like Togashi, the guy that writes Hunter x Hunter, I'm always worried he's going to die and Hunter x Hunter's never going to finish. But he is married to the person that made Sailor Moon. So, like, I don't know. Hopefully, she knows something that we don't. And if he can't finish it, she can. And Oda, I don't know what he's doing. Hopefully there's somebody that can pick up the pen. But manga artists, man, they die early. Like, the average like manga artist dies around 60 years old. Like, they have a very low life expectancy, actually. So I don't know.
I wonder if that's something to do with Japanese culture and the toxic work environment, because that's just a known thing about Japan. They like certain careers, you just get worked into the ground. And we already know all the manga writers, all of them, you've seen things about their health throughout their time writing whatever they wrote, whether that be Naruto's writer, Bleach's writer, One Piece's writer, any of the other ones. Any of the ones who become major, you always hear about their health, like bad health. I mean, poor health. Like, it's always at some point the fucking chapters go on hiatus because of health. It always happens. Like, in all of your faves, there's never been any of your faves that have consistently written for 5 years without, you hear something about like, his health has been declining and all sort of stuff. And that is a little sad that is, it's true that Kenny said like their life expectancy is low. And I think that might be a cultural thing with just that career is toxic.
Dude, and Oda's a freaking beast, man, because like not only does he release things almost weekly, it's like he has his SBS stuff too that he does. Like, he goes out of the way and gives us like those additional pieces of content. And
he's the GOAT.
Dude, he is. And I feel like, I just wonder if he feels like if he stops, he's going to die then, Like, he's the opposite. Like, if I stop, I'm gone. So, I don't know.
Didn't Kazuki Takahashi and Akira Toriyama both die at the age of 60?
Yeah, Akira Toriyama, I don't know if he was exactly 60, but I know he was in his 60s, and yeah, he just died.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like, it's like you said, it's like everybody's just like checking out around like the age, like around if they're not 60, like they're around 60. That's pretty insane. One thing I want to ask, what what do y'all feel? How y'all feel about Dragon Ball Super? Like, where do y'all feel like it's gonna go? Like,
I love Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball Super is really fun. I'll always take more Dragon Ball content just to take, like, Dragon Ball's become such a cultural thing now. Like, some people might not realize this, but a Dragon Ball Z game comes out every single year, and that has been the case for like the last 20 years. There's at least one DBZ game every single year. And I love it. Like, I don't buy all those games, but I just love the fact that DBZ is still always here, still so strong. Everybody still knows it. It's still like the godfather of all the kids. So I love DBZ. I love seeing new content for it. Dragon Ball Super is really fun. At the end of the day, I don't think it's as good as original Dragon Ball Z, but it's still really fun to watch. I still have a lot of fun just enjoying it. And that's kind of where I'm at more so when I get older, is that I still like to really dig into things, and I still like things to have really interesting plots and characters, etc. But I also am able to just enjoy things too. Like, sometimes I'm like, this is just supposed to be enjoyed. It doesn't need to have the craziest, deepest, most omega storyline. Like, this can just be something to enjoy. And I do legitimately think Dragon Ball Super, in terms of writing, is not as good as DBZ.
I don't
But
think
it's just fun.
I don't think anybody, and this is even the original Dragon Ball, like, I don't think you get into Dragon Ball because the story's good. Like you're into Dragon Ball because you like the fights, you like the characters.
We don't have enough time to get into that, but I always disagree with that. And maybe one day I'll be back on and I will debate you and your grandma. But for now, I don't have time to defend that point.
Grandma said.
Yeah, my opinion on Dragon Ball Super is really short and concise, but basically I just I thought the Tournament of Power was really good. I wasn't really interested in Dragon Ball Super before the Tournament of Power, to be honest. And that really lit a flame in me to where I want it to premiere again with like the next arc, because I know a lot about what happens in the manga after the Tournament of Power. Well, I think that the guy's name's like Moro or something like that, the ram looking dude.
Yeah.
And all the other crazy shit that happens with like Frieza and stuff. But I'm surprised. It's been several years now since Dragon Ball Super aired, and it was so huge when it aired, the Tournament of Power. Like that shit was the biggest thing in anime, and like it just disappeared, and I don't hear any buzz about the next season is going to start anytime. Like the fact that Bleach, which again, Bleach has been very mid to me. The fact that Bleach has like seasons coming out every year consistently in October, and Dragon Ball Super doesn't is actually surprising to me. Like I'm genuinely surprised that it's been over 5 years. I feel like since the TOP, right? It's been like over 5 years now, right?
Yeah. It's been a long while. Yeah,
it was pre-pandemic when Jiren and all that stuff happened. I'm really surprised because I actually enjoyed the Tournament of Power, except the ending, but like whatever, right? It's Dragon Ball. I don't expect all the characters from different universes to actually die or whatever. So it had no stakes. But I think that the journey from start to finish of that arc was actually really, really, like Kenny said, fun. Like it was really fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The one thing I'll say on Dragon Ball Super, and I'll end it on that, is it's like I really hope they give Vegeta his just due, and they let him kill Frieza, and for real this time, because I feel like
you think they're gonna kill Frieza?
I feel like because I know Goku and Vegeta I mean it's no surprise they'll end up fighting Frieza again. I like when it comes to when it gets to that point, I want it to be Vegeta to kill Frieza.
Nobody ever dies in Dragon Ball.
Like
nobody ever truly dies.
I need my boy Vegeta to get an actual win. If it's not going to be Vegeta, let it be Gohan.
Okay.
Because yeah. Well, we're at the 1 hour and 17-minute mark. So, Fraser, Kenny, do y'all have anything to say before we get out of here?
Just thanks for having us on. It was a lot of fun. It was cool little time, and it's fun to do a shorter podcast because me and Fraser can usually go anywhere between an hour 40 to fucking 3 hours. Right. So yeah, fun time. Good to have on. Thanks for supporting us. I'm happy to be on here to help support you guys. And I mean, anybody listening to this, you guys, IMNERD podcast, come check us out if you haven't checked us out already. And then, of course, continue to support your boys behind the Duel Disc.
Yep.
Yeah, we really appreciate y'all coming on. This was absolute treat for us. Like when Fraser sent me the message about wanting to come on last night. I was hyped. I was excited the whole night. I barely slept.
Yeah, no, I was. I mean, I know when you first started doing it, you were asking me about coming on the show and stuff like that, and I told you, yeah, as long as we can find time, and this is a good weekend for me because it's a holiday weekend. I had like a little 4-day weekend or whatever.
Yeah, same.
So I wanted to get done a lot of content stuff when I have these free days where I don't really have to do anything. And yeah, so this was a great time to do it. And you guys have been supporters of the I'm There podcast and everything that we do for a while now. So definitely wanted to return the favor in any way that we can. And yeah, I enjoy talking to you guys. It's pretty fun. It's pretty chill.
Yeah, we thoroughly enjoyed it. Well, guys, this has been Ty, Justin, Fraser, and Kenny with the Behind the Duel Disc podcast. Sign out until the next one. Y'all have a great day. Stay safe.
See ya.